the song "Oh Holy Night" was in my mind, and I think about the line, "A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices," and just thinking about how apt that is right now, how weary our world is of distancing, of watching another person, another loved one get sick, another day of nothing, but maybe even more negative news. And so what does it look like in this Advent to have a thrill of hope?
This is, we're church people. We think in verses and hymns and such, but we sang it in worship, I think 2 Sundays ago, "Will you let me be your servant?" And there's a line in there, I'm paraphrasing, I might not have it exactly, but it's like, "Will you let me hold the Christ-like for you?" And I feel that hymn, that's one of my new favorites in the last 5 years, but in that hymn, there is that sense that's what we do together in faith community is maybe I'm not feeling the thrill of hope right now, and someone, holds the Christ light out to me. And
the word that keeps jumping out at me is hope. And that in Advent, the hope, the expectation, the waiting that Pastor Shelly mentioned is that the Christ is coming, right? And I think it's easy for us to theorize and intellectually understand hope. But like for a lot of us, especially here in Glen Ellen, here in the Western world, our hopes are much less necessities, than hopes of perhaps people throughout the rest of the world or the people that we often overlook in our own nation. So this year, I think hope really jumps out at me because the entire world is hoping for one similar thing.
More than ever in this year when we are not connected in the ways that we are used to being connected, seeing each other, every form of being connected feels like a gift at this time. And last year I found that so much through the devotional was learning about congregation members or hearing their stories and feeling a greater sense of connection through the devotional on a daily basis, that this year it felt like, man, we need that more than ever.
So here's something that we can carry over and can continue in this time, this practice of asking our members to share. And I think in that sharing, people will see repetitive themes that they themselves have been feeling in this past year or in this particular season. And so they'll see through this year, they're not alone.
Advent has a sense of waiting to it. And man, I feel like we've been experiencing waiting communally as a society, waiting, how long are we going to be in this state, waiting for things to get back to some bit of normal, or waiting for a vaccine, or just so many waitings and so many longings and yearnings in that waiting. And Advent, that's always the theme of Advent, but this year we're living it in different ways. So
in reality, we're gathering together through this, and in a time where we're not really allowed to gather, like what a joy to be able to gather together around these stories, around some of these prayers and this connection to a larger tradition. And I find it so encouraging that what we're being asked to do is to connect this season, connect what you're feeling to your faith, and then what that's going to do is hopefully give somebody else a connection to their faith.
These devotions aren't meant to be little lessons or doctrinal instruction. They're meant to be stories of how has God been at work in your life. What are sacred times of waiting for you? What are sacred moments of hope? And that is how we share the Christ-like, is in telling those stories. And everybody has them. And
when it's late at night, you've got a candle lit, you can only see just around you. So in like the image that came to me, the metaphor was like, well, we typically can see hope all around us, right? The room is lit. We can look over here, wherever, and see hope. But with only a candle as light, our focus is so much more narrowed. Where do you turn to? Like, what do you look to? What do you look to shine that very narrow light on to find hope? Because we can't look everywhere to find it. What is that? What is it for you that you can turn to and have a candle shine on for hope?
Think about, and I'd be really interested if some devotion writers for this devotion explored this, explored the darkness and the importance of nighttime. Advent is when we have more darkness in our day and we have more nighttime. And what are the important and fruitful things that happen in that? Seeds in the ground need darkness to germinate. We all need, we sleep better. We get better rest when we have darkness at night. What is the good of this darkness time that's good and necessary in our lives, and that's part of Advent too. Do start with the scripture verse or verses that you have for the day. Spend time with those. Spend time with those and find where they tug on you, where they feel convicting to you, where they feel hopeful to you.
I would say, feel free to share about a lesson, an experience that you learned that coincides with whatever the scripture may be for that day, but don't feel like you have to turn it into a lesson for everyone. Sometimes those best lessons are the ones that we can infer and aren't the ones that are told explicitly. So share how it affected you, and then give others the option to figure out for themselves how it affects them.
So start off writing as much as you want. Do that, but then on your own, tighten it up. Maybe share it with a trusted friend or family member who understands your voice and what you're trying to say, and they help you get to the heart of it.
Go with the first thing that jumps into your mind. It's there for a reason. Something has struck you, explore that. Just to be open to whatever may come, and however that's going to be received. It's often a line or a word, a phrase that you think is not super important, but actually is the one that really touches someone, that really grabs their attention. So be open to whatever may come out of it.
Trust that every time we do something creatively, it's God, the creator, working in us. And so when we trust in that, it feels, and I'm preaching to myself here, right? Because this is a weekly, sermon kind of thing, is trusting that the burden isn't all on you, but that you are spending time with God, the creator, who gives us that creative spirit, and trust that. I remember with last year's devotional, I think I went through and read it all in one setting, and I felt like I shouldn't, like I was cheating and reading ahead, but I couldn't help it. But then I also read it on a daily basis, and then I heard him different, because of course you hear it differently depending on what's going on the day that you're reading it. So I'm excited. I'm hungry for this gathering of people and getting to share in this way.
And of course, a personal thing is, I love to see if I can guess who wrote each one based on some clues.
I think that was one of the delights last year of opening up the devotional and seeing a drawing in it and not knowing that was going to be there, or just turning the page and seeing people taking different approaches in their writing. And some people shared a little story, some people more talked on or reflected on an experience, but don't feel locked into any one style, or don't even look at last year's when you're doing it. Just let what comes out and feels most natural for you do that.